Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Recognition Dry 6695 from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit, and it says, Am I the arsehole here for digging into my brother's girlfriend's past and telling him the results? My brother Adam had a rough childhood, to say the least. Our father passed away when he was under 10 from cancer. Our mother is likely bipolar, but definitely narcissistic tendencies and abusive. I'm older by a decade and did what I could when I could for him, but basically I failed to protect him and didn't understand what he needed. All that to say that his descent into alcoholism wasn't a surprise. It was expected. A couple of years ago, he had an incident that caused him hospitalization and began his recovery and sobriety. He's over 2 years clean now, hugely due to the new relationship he started months after his incident with a kind-hearted, lovely woman. I'll call her Eve. He brought Eve over to meet us shortly after they met, and she's been a welcome part of our family. She makes gifts for my kids and treats. She's always fun to speak to, and her quirkiness fits in beautifully. As we got to know her, we've learned about how traumatic her life has been. They're kinda trauma bonded, but she's so understanding and empathetic. She told us about her twin who passed away in high school, about her siblings and how her parents loved him more, and treat her badly as the survivor that was always less than. She also had another brother who passed away in war in Iraq. That was the golden child after her twin passed. She couldn't seem to gain her mother's approval or attention, and we bonded over those feelings of not being wanted or good enough. She told us she was originally from Scotland. Her father was a sheep farmer who moved to America to buy a cattle farm because of the cowboy movies. So she has dual citizenship. She also said because of this, she spoke 16 languages. She worked at a college and had multiple degrees too. Overall, she was incredibly nice, took good care of Adam, and seemed super well educated and proper. Sometimes she had a Scottish accent too, because she'd been around her family. Then she started to tell us about her past relationships. 3 divorces. One was from a person who had gender reassignment surgery. The other passed away by his own hands, and the last had attempted to take her life, shot her, and then had ran from the cops to a ditch where he passed away. She showed my kids the scar. I felt like after 2 years of knowing her, she was a great fit. So last week when they had a bad argument, I tried to reassure Adam. I had him come over to talk, and he had told me that she had lied to him about not speaking to a friend of hers anymore. Some guy who was apparently a popular guy in high school. She lied because she didn't want to believe he wasn't a good guy because she's had so much bad luck with men. Adam was struggling to move past the lying, but wanted to work it out, and I support him in whatever he does. I talked to my husband about it, and he asked the most basic question. How does she have a high school popular kid here in town if she was raised in Oklahoma on a cattle farm? Honestly, I have PTSD, so my brain sometimes gets mixed up. I assumed I was wrong. It turned over and over in my head though, for a couple of days. I finally caved while my husband played video games and began a casual search into her. Googled her name and her address came up. Then I realized her history of addresses were all in America, all going back pretty far. So I checked her parents and their addresses went back in America to before she was born. I was so confused I googled them and found recent obituaries of her grandparents on both sides. They're all from America, and they only mention 3 kids by her parents ever. Obituaries usually list preceded in death, and these do. But no grandkids in that list. No additional brothers of hers. Not only that, but she lived at the same address her whole life in Kansas. I looked it up on a map and found the high school nearby and searched the yearbook. Found her 12th grade. No twin. Okay, but he passed away, so I checked 9th grade. Also, no twin. The deeper I dug, the more proof of the lies. Only 2 marriages on record. Both still alive. One did change names from male in the marriage to female in the divorce, but that seems to be the only true thing she's ever said. It's absolutely shocking. Finally, my husband said, I have to tell Adam. I was against it, and Then as the pile got larger, I said it was an in-person conversation. He insisted it needed to be done. So I put it all together into a document and messaged Adam. I asked a few clarifying questions about the twin and the ex-husbands. I apologized and provided the information to him and hoped I was wrong. Within 10 minutes of sending it to him, he said that she admitted everything to him. He's absolutely lost now. 2 whole years. So many lies. I'm just baffled. Why? Like, if they got married, it would have unraveled so quickly. As it stands, she's been able to keep him away from her family by allowing them to disrespect their age gap. He's noticeably younger than her. She refused to go to an uncle's funeral earlier this year because she claimed he was a predator. I hate questioning this, but maybe she just didn't want Adam to find out that her uncle was born and raised in Kansas, not Scotland, and so was her dad. She was here with my kids, having them feel the bullet wound scar from an incident that never happened. There's no criminal records from either of the exes. There's none for her either, thankfully, but good lord. I wish I could put the cat back in the bag on this one. Why lie? And why didn't I check her background sooner? I literally checked the kids, my kids' date in high school to make sure their parents aren't on a registry or anything. I should have checked her much sooner. Now the life and family they were building is in ruins and I'm terrified of losing his sobriety. I'm feeling really guilty for looking it up and telling him too. Not sure I did the right thing because he's heartbroken. Am I the arsehole here? Absolutely not the arsehole in this situation. You uncovered a huge web of lies that your brother deserved to know about. I was just trying to think in like perspective of my family. If I found something out like that, I would absolutely tell him the truth. For me, it just feels like the amount of lies in the story. First, it's not a healthy foundation to build your relationship on, is it? And secondly, I feel like something's going to come out somewhere down the line. It always seems to happen, and the amount of lies in one story, something's going to come out in the end. I mean, dead siblings, fake trauma, and made-up bullet wounds. But Adam deserved to know sooner rather than later. Imagine further down the road and, he gets married or whatever, has kids, potentially has children or something along those lines, and then all this was to come out in the end later down the road. It'd be even more devastating then. In my opinion, you did the right thing, but Temperance Lee quotes saying she told her she was originally from Scotland. Her father was a sheep farmer who moved to America to buy a cattle farm because of the cowboy movies, so she has dual citizenship. She also said because of this she spoke 16 languages. Then says, not being funny, but how does having dual citizenship with the UK bestow upon her 16 languages? Did they plug her into the Matrix? And quotes again saying she worked at a college and had multiple degrees too, and then says, please be less gullible going forward. Life is full of bullshitters, but the beauty of them is they're easy to spot because they always go too far. 16 languages, multiple degrees that haven't turned into anything, 3 divorces. Who has the time? That's what I always question when we have these kind of stories, like, who has the time for all this? OP says, well, her degrees did turn into something. She worked at a college at the time, and when that job ended, she's now working as an engineer. If you work at a college, they let you take classes free or reduced. She probably has some of the degrees, and she could have taken the language classes. There's people famous here for learning lots of languages. She called herself a polyglot. I have a friend who is learning Japanese with a tutor, and she talked about different tutors she used and programs too. It seemed legit. Obviously, everything she said she did, and it was all lies. She's old enough to have been divorced 3 times as well. Seems like tragically bad luck or poor judgment, but being raised by a narcissist with traumatic childhood made me give her grace and assume she was targeted for being too nice. I really want to argue that I'm not gullible, but I have to explain this to my oldest kid when they get back from a trip next week, and the only explanation is that I was incredibly gullible. My oldest kid is also super fond of this woman, and I know it's going to hurt. Fragrant says to OP, you didn't even really dig. You spent 20 minutes with Google. Not the arsehole, but now I really want to know what's going on with her. That said, these are the kind of people that don't cope with their dream life imploding well, and your brother is in the blast radius. Please keep him safe, OP. OP says, well, it was about 4 to 5 hours. It takes a lot of connecting family members and addresses to find the right obituaries and such. I did it for both sides of her family, and then the yearbooks are saved with pages you have to individually flip. So I went to the last page and scrolled forward to the index, go to a list of places she was pictured. Notice she had no sibling, no same last name. Then scrolled page by page to the class photo for the link to attach to the list for him. Going through the court records was time consuming as well because of registering for it and then opening every single file because I don't know what the case numbers mean for each state to know which ones to skip. She's small and has lots of medical issues, which as I say that maybe so doesn't. Geez, well she claims a lot of them. He's about 10 years younger, over 6 foot and 200 pounds. I call him my little big brother because he's very Viking. He's safe, I think, and she's caught red-handed. He also works nights, so after their talk he left and won't be back until this morning. I warned him the meltdown could be huge, but he said she was just super remorseful. He's debating on it if he stays with her because it was just for attention. He loves her and this is really, really messed up. Low support says you didn't get sus when she said she spoke 16 languages. I hope he says no because she actually spoke something when asked to speak each language by my kids. I only know English, enough Spanish to ask where the bathroom and library is, and some sign language from when I was a kid. So super rusty, think alphabet, every cuss word and thank you basically. There are people who speak lots of languages, and again, she worked at a college and where she had claimed to have gotten multiple degrees, so she could have taken language classes there. It didn't come off as lies or exaggeration. I'm generally very skeptical of everyone, but she's older than me and had worked there for many years. So it didn't seem like a stretch if she got no kids and has had 25 plus years to do anything she wanted with her life. Esme replied to that saying, I had an acquaintance like this. He claimed he was both a Navy SEAL and a Green Beret. Also was part of a Burmese military unit. He is white as milk and was never in the military, and was adopted by both Native Americans and Japanese ninja family. Oh, and how many serious injuries he survived, and how much secret medical knowledge he claimed to have. And he knew the ways of every culture somehow. And his dogs weren't dogs. They were dogs, but wolves. And yes, the languages. After a while it became unclear whether he could even tell he was lying or keep his lies straight. It's really sad. He seems so desperate to be thought of as amazing that he pushes everyone away with his lies, and he is now an old man living a lonely life. So a month after this, OP came in with an update and says to catch up, brother's girlfriend of 2 years was lying about her past. From the traumatic passing of a made-up twin, made-up older brother, 2 ex-husbands who are still very much alive, a made-up ex-fiancé and a made-up loss of a child, made-up assault during their relationship that she used to control him, to inventing having multiple degrees and speaking 16 languages. When I posted, I'd uncovered some of the lies and forwarded him the proof. She had come clean immediately and taken him to visit her parents to explain it. She has untreated borderline personality disorder apparently. My brother, who I called Adam for this, is a recovering alcoholic with a huge heart. He was absolutely determined to stay with her and not toss her aside for being human. He thought this was the righteous and noble thing to do, to not discard someone who is struggling or damaged in their time of need. My husband and I were determined to support him regardless of his choice because we love him. She told him she could never be around us again and she was scared of us. We assured him that we would never be rude to anyone he dated and that we were more than capable of being around her. I genuinely think when she realized that we weren't going to let her isolate him by pretending she had a reason to fear us, it was over for her. It only lasted a week. After our dinner with him where we showed him unconditional support and reminded him that he was the victim repeatedly. The following week she went out with friends to a bar. He asked where she went and with who, since this whole thing started because she was lying about not hanging out with some jerk that didn't respect my brother or their relationship. She said that she didn't have to show Adam anything to prove where she had been and that she can't heal like this. She expected to play the victim to him, as if him asking for accountability and transparency was him being controlling. Then he said that he can't be in a relationship where he can't trust someone. She was clearly hiding who she was with and where she was. In response, she gave him 30 days to move out. So this weekend, we are moving him into his own place. He's of course still reeling from the whiplash of whatever the heck the last 2 years of lies have been with a woman he thought he would marry. He has a strong support system though, and he's absolutely going to get through this. He's even quitting smoking during this, which I could not imagine trying to do at this level of chaos, but he is determined. Thank you everyone for the advice and support. Please don't be gullible like we were, and if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Rough Medicine says to the OP, just in case you didn't know, you fucking rock. The way you are your brother's keeper and have his back, 100% is great. She knew she wasn't going to be able to keep playing him with you in his corner, and that's why her ass had to go. Congratulations on getting this dirtbag see you next Tuesday out of your brother's life. Opie says, thank you for saying this. I felt like such an arsehole for snooping, and even more so when it started to unravel her lies. He's genuinely heartbroken, and he didn't deserve this, so I'm working hard to make sure he has everything he needs for this move, and he doesn't have to stress as much. I'm really glad he has taken it as well as he is, and that he doesn't seem to hate me for it. Sometimes delivering the bad news makes you part of the problem because people can't separate the hurt. I just want him to be okay. Mobius says, I'm so curious. What were the 16 languages? Moby says, well, she claimed to be a dual citizen with Scotland, so she said all the languages from that area as well as obscure ones. The ones I remember were like Scottish, Gaelic, German, obviously not Spanish because we would have immediately caught that lie. She must have memorized phrases in each language because when asked, she would recite some things that sounded like they were appropriate. It was just like a random factoid she'd say, and the kids would ask her to say a cuss word or something and we'd move on in the conversation. I never got a complete list, but I absolutely should have asked for it. And one more comment to OP from Janus who says, you are wonderful. I welled up a bit when I read about her attempt to isolate him from you and responded beautifully. Have faith your brother will be fine with someone like you watching out for him. I'm the son of an alcoholic and we both know there's a good chance he might relapse, but I can't imagine you being deterred from caring for him. You might not have a cape, but I know what you are. Opie says thank you. He's genuinely the kindest, sweetest man, so protecting him and helping him is the least I can do. He's literally the kind of uncle that despite working nights will come to a noon graduation party to celebrate his niece and make her feel seen and loved. He plays video games with my boys and encourages them as they play. He's just such a great person, and he means so much to us. She was dumb to think he didn't have support. Just because he never asks anyone for anything, I've always got his back. Wow, that was absolutely terrifying in parts of that update when she immediately tried to isolate Adam from a support system after being exposed like that, saying that, oh, she's scared of you. Yeah, right. And the dinner was a nice thing where they showed unconditional support for Adam while, emphasizing to him that he is the victim in this and basically not allowing her to spin the narrative how she likes. And once again, you didn't ruin anything for him. You saved him from wasting more years on someone who was willing to manipulate him time and time again. Not a partner in any sense of the word. And he sounds like he's incredibly lucky to have someone like you in his corner. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Device Known 4500, who says, I, 33 female, told my boyfriend, 33 male, that I'm no longer interested in marriage. I, 33 female, have been in a 10-year relationship with my boyfriend, Carl, 33 male. After the first year of our relationship, I made it very clear that I intended to be a wife someday. By the time I was 28, I started to remind him of my goals and expectations, and Carl told me that while he knew he wanted to marry me, he just wasn't ready yet and didn't like how I was pressuring him and called me controlling. Eventually we broke up, but 6 months later we got back together and even moved in. Looking back on it now, that wasn't the best decision. I was so emotionally attached to this man and felt so invested that I was willing to go back to him. Carl and I have now been living together for 4 years, and while I stopped being happy about it after the first 6 months, living with him isn't a bad experience. Plus, I always thought that us getting married was just around the corner, because he said he was ready to commit to me, but he wanted to wait for the right time because I deserved a perfect proposal and a more stable husband. I've been going to therapy for the past 2 years and recently had an epiphany. Since childhood, I have always wanted a wedding but never really gave much thought to being a married woman 24/7 and what that would mean. Given my country's shift in politics and new laws that politicians are trying to pass, I realized that not only am I fine with never getting married, but I'm starting to lean more into no longer possessing the desire to do it. Since then, it feels like I've been set free in a way and started focusing on myself. One of the major things that I've done is tell Carl that I'll no longer assist with babysitting his nephews and niece, and instead focus more of my time into getting certified in something to increase my earning potential and just relaxing. Carl seemed nonchalant about it at first, but then said we needed to have a sit down when I sent Carl's mum and his brother a text that they had 3 weeks before I stopped helping out completely. Carl said that while he understands my desire for more personal time, it's important to be there and sacrifice for family. I told him that he could switch around his own work schedule and help with the kids since they're technically his family. And he said that the children love me and that one day they'd be my family too, once we were man and wife. It was in that moment that I told him I no longer desired marriage, and while I gave my reasons, Carl still took it as me wanting to break up with him and/or thinking that he would make a terrible husband. That is not the case at all, but he's starting to lash out and get suspicious, and I just don't know what to do. How can I get my boyfriend to see that it's me, not him? A commenter questions OP saying, I'm curious what Carl's mum and brother required your help with that you needed to give 3 weeks notice that you would no longer be helping with. Was it the niece and nephew's childcare or something more? OP says Carl's brother has 50-50 custody of his children, but childcare after school is expensive where we live, so his mum was initially watching the kids. But it was getting to be too much, so I offered to help out, and it's been that way for about 3 years. I don't feel right just quitting on something like this without notice, and wanted to emotionally prepare the kids that they would not see me as often as before. Commenter says, and quotes, given my country's shift in politics and new laws that politicians are trying to pass, I realize that not only am I fine with never getting married, but I'm starting to lean more into no longer possessing the desire to do it. Then says, what does this mean? OP says I live in America, and in one of the southern states. There are some politicians who want to put in laws that I personally don't think would be for my benefit in regards to marriage, and if they're successful, I definitely never want to be married to someone. Someone asked does OP live close to her family or Carl's family for any additional support and help. OP says, we don't live close enough to my family for Carl to consistently offer any help on a regular basis. A commenter has a pop at OP but was downvoted. They said, you're the arsehole flat out. You string him along for 10 years with the goal to get married and now do a 180 without warning. Of course he gets suspicious. Also, you never said why he wasn't ready for marriage. Does he have financial problems? Mental health issues he wanted to work on before? Also, it reads like you don't even see him as a partner anymore, but as a roommate. You just pulled the rug under him. Of course, it looks like a breakup, and I don't understand how people are defending you. You fucked up bad time, or big time. I would not be surprised at all if he packs his bags now and leaves. OP replies saying, how was I stringing him along when he was the one who kept putting it off? Also, what was there to warn him about? I can't speak for Carl as to why he never felt ready. I can only tell you what he told me. We've lived together for a couple of years and he's never talked about having mental health or financial issues. I've noticed no change in his behavior either. I also made it very clear that while I no longer desired marriage, I still wanted to be in the relationship. So I don't know where breakup would come up. And one more commenter says, do the two of you want children? If not, there's no reason to get married. OP replies saying, I don't know what to call it, but I'm between wanting kids and being child-free. I could really go either way. Although given where I live in America right now, I would not give birth in the state that I live in. OP updates 7 months later and says, okay, so things were a little tense over the next few days because We were either fighting or just not talking to each other. He even moved into the spare bedroom one day and he stopped giving me money for his share of the streaming services that we both use and I technically pay for. I even had to mute his mama and brother for a little bit. Then once Valentine's Day was right around the corner, he did a complete 180 and started speaking to me again and even apologized for his initial reaction and seemed really receptive to hearing my reasons. He then told me he planned a special day for us the weekend after Valentine's Day, which I was delighted to hear. On the day of, I woke up to him gone, but with breakfast laid out for me and a text message saying that there was a work emergency and that he had to go in for a couple of hours, and told me to go meet him at the movie theater downtown by 3 p.m. I thought cool. I chilled for a bit, then got ready and headed out. By 2:55 p.m., I sent him a text message asking where he was, and he responded by saying he accidentally typed the wrong time and that the movie wouldn't start until 5 p.m. and he meant that he wasn't able to leave work until 3 p.m. He's had a case of fat fingers and butt dials before, so I initially didn't think much and just decided to go walking around by outlet close by to kill time. Then I got another text saying that he'd change our online ticket reservations because he was still stuck at the office and to just chill until 7 p.m. This time I grew suspicious, but instead of calling or texting back with questions, I just gave him a thumbs and sent a selfie of me at one of my favorite stores, then started to drive back home. Normally getting back to our apartment from the downtown area where I was at around this time of day on a weekend can be a bit of a challenge, but today traffic was decent. Then when I pulled up to the complex, I see a moving truck. No big deal, January/February is when a lot of people have moved out or in before, so I understood. Why did I see some of Carl's friends moving the couch that I paid for into the truck? I called the police and told them that I was actively being robbed. I stayed in the car for a while trying to calm myself down until I saw Carl helping a man load my bookshelf into the back of his pickup truck. I got out and confronted him. This man was trying to keep me out of the apartment all day so he could quietly move out and take my furniture. And I say my furniture because I was the one who picked it all out and paid for most of everything. I readily shared the email confirmation order numbers and receipts that I'd archived when the police showed up. The man tried to take my bookshelf because apparently Carl had sold it to him. But that wasn't my problem, and that I'd press charges on everyone if my stuff wasn't back in my place. We got into a huge argument, and the police tried to brush this off as a civil matter since Carl and I lived together, but I went into the station the next day and spoke to a female officer who was of better help. My dining room set, spices, blender, groceries, lamps, TV, coffee table, and mattress were gone, but Carl's friends did put back the couch, which was a pullout. The middleman between my landlord and me did speak to Carl about wanting to take his name off the lease, but did not follow the proper protocol and confirming with me that I would take on full responsibility of rent, so I did file a complaint. I ended up leaving the complex and moving somewhere else and pressed charges against Carl and his friends, if only to create a paper trail and help in my civil case against my ex. In the end, I was able to get some financial compensation for what I lost, and he has until November to pay it all. I wasn't even sad that he didn't want to be with me anymore, just pissed off at how he tried to go about it. It is very clear that he wanted to punish me, and I'm so glad that I never ended up marrying this man. I completed my certification, got a promotion, and the pay rise that comes with it. My dad has agreed to give me the money he was saving for my future wedding as a down payment for a house. After this entire experience, I am now 10 toes down and never getting married. Also, as a side note, since Carl's brother couldn't provide consistent childcare on his days, the mother filed for full custody, and now Carl's brother pays child support. Holy moly, commenter says to OP, so I was expecting that Carl found this person and is engaged and getting married soon. At your ages, delaying an engagement and marriage when you have been together that long and have your adult job is being comfortable in the relationship, but not sure the other one is really the one, becomes a habit. OP says I don't know about marriage, but from what I was told by his mum, who I didn't ask, he does have a new girlfriend, so good luck to her. Another commenter says, my only question is, why did it take you so long? 10 years, if I remember correctly, to figure out this guy was a complete loser. Good for you. Better late than never. Opie says because I always idolized the idea of getting married, and just like I said in my original post, I developed an emotional attachment to my ex, plus a little bit of the sunk cost mindset. But I know better now. Commenter says you dodged a nuke. What a world-class arsehole, robbing you on his way out, and you just know how much he enjoyed picturing you coming home to an empty place. You're getting the best revenge, a court judgment, and living your best life. And one more commenter says, I don't know, feels kinda suspicious. Who decides to wait 2 whole hours instead of going back home? Like what? Opie says, I was shopping. Gee whiz, that was a turnaround in that update. I really thought he was like going to surprise her with some big setup when he was telling her to go to the cinema. He was going to be there with flowers or something else, you know. And then I thought, oh, you know, he's just really shit with time and this is going to be one of those stories. But then to find out, he had this whole scheme behind her back to basically steal all of her shit. Holy moly, what do you guys make of this one? Wow, let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.